Hi, my name is Officer Wright. I work for the East Brunswick Police Department, Community Policing Unit. Over the last couple of years, I had the privilege and honor of teaching the LEAD curriculum in the East Brunswick schools to fifth graders. LEAD stands for Law Enforcement Against Drugs. The LEAD curriculum, I feel, is something that's so vital and so important to our students and to the community at large. The LEAD curriculum talks about a couple things. It talks about setting reachable goals, making responsible decisions, managing your emotions, selecting your peer group, choosing friends based on certain qualities. It's a 10-week curriculum, and over the first 5 weeks, it's about skill development. Over the second 5 weeks, it's about how do we apply these skills that we just learned weeks 1 through 5. When we talk about reaching goals, this is so important because when you have goals, you live a narrow life. Someone that has goals, they know that I'm trying to get from A to Z. In order to do so, I have to live a narrow life. I have to make responsible decisions. I have to manage my emotions because they understand that their emotions will affect their decisions and their decisions affect their goals. They understand they have to choose their friends wisely. You just can't choose anyone to hang around and associate with. You have to choose friends that have good, high qualities in order to be around them. Show me your friends, I'll show you your future. They have to understand their attitude. Attitude is more important than ability. They have to understand character traits play a role into their progression in life. They have to be courageous. They have to be self-disciplined. They have to be responsible. These are key ingredients from our students going from boys and girls to men and women that are productive in our society. I hope that over the next 10 weeks you're inspired and you're encouraged. And I hope that you tune in each and every week. And I hope that you would share this with your friends and families. Whether you're a parent, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a student, whether you have a sibling, a younger sibling, or an older sibling, whatever it may be, hope that you tune in that this really inspires you and encourages you. Again, my name is Officer Wright. I work for the East Brunswick Police Department, and this is the LEAD curriculum. Thank you. Mia, Landon, thank you so much for being here. We're in lesson number 4 already. Thank you so much for being here. Lesson number 4 means we have to review the first 3 lessons. So lesson 1 was setting reachable goals. We discussed there's 6 steps towards reaching your goal. We want to review it for our audience. Number 1 is name it. Number 2 is picture yourself. Number 3 is say I can. Remember, it's important to have a positive attitude and say I can. I will try. Number 4 is think how to do it. Number 5 is go for it. Number 6 is celebrate your success. Remember, we talked about this 3 character traits for lessons 1 and lesson 2. Courage, self-discipline, and responsibility. We also discussed when you're thinking about your goal, it needs to be something that you're passionate about. But how do you identify your goal? There's 4 criteria for identifying your goal. The 3 P's and the S. It has to be personal, possible, positive,
and specific.
Absolutely, great. Lesson number 2, we talked about making responsible decisions. There's 2 types of decisions we typically have to make. What are they?
Good decisions and bad decisions, which can resolve in a positive consequence and a negative consequence.
Excellent. We have to make responsible decisions. A good decision or a bad decision. And like you just said, a positive or negative consequence. And when we're thinking about making decisions, there's an acronym that we think about. It's STAR. S-T-A-R. What's the S?
Stop.
Excellent. What's the T?
Think.
What's the A?
Act.
And what's the R?
Reflect.
Right. So before we make a decision, we want to do what?
We want to stop and think if
Right.
we're doing something right or if it's bad.
Excellent. We want to stop and think. Stop and think about what kind of decision we're going to make. What are we doing? Now, we talked about in lesson number 1, the goals. Your goal, auditioning for Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz. Your goal is to be a higher achiever in math. And we talked about there's decisions that we're going to have to make. Sometimes when you're making decisions, you have to make sacrifices. You have to choose not to do something that may not be inherently evil or wrong, but you have to choose to sacrifice that to choose a better decision or something that's going to help you achieve your goals. And you mentioned in one of the lessons prior that you may have to spend time watching Dorothy and seeing what she actually does, because that's going to help you when you practice, correct?
Yes.
Yep. And you spoke about there's some things that you can do in terms of practicing more on your math facts, or going into the computer and just practicing whatever it is in math that you need to do to get better, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, excellent. Lesson number 3, we spoke about, does anybody remember what lesson number 3 was?
It was
Emotions.
Emotions, identifying and managing our emotions. Lesson 1, setting reachable goals. Lesson number 2 was making responsible decisions. Lesson number 3, identifying and managing our emotions. Now, we spoke about just 4 basic emotions. What are the 4 basic emotions? Do you remember one of them?
Happy,
Yep.
sad,
Yep.
angry, and scared.
Happy, sad, angry, or scared. And we said our emotions affect our,
decisions.
right, and our decisions affect our, no, you want to help them out?
Goals.
Yes, good job. All right. Our emotions affect our decisions. Our decisions affect our goals. So we have to remember, sometimes we may be feeling something, whether it's happy, sad, angry, scared. We have to stop and think and identify, what emotion am I feeling? What's going on inside of me? Am I angry right now? Am I happy right now? Am I sad right now? What kind of decision do I make based off that emotion or feeling? Right? And then how does that decision affect the goal? How does it affect the end result of what's going to happen? All right? Today we want to talk about effective communication for lesson number 4. Effective communication. Now, when I say the word communication, what comes to mind, Mia?
Speaking.
Speaking. Excellent. Speaking is one of our primary ways of communicating. Are there any kind of ways that we communicate with each other, Landon?
In verbal and nonverbal ways.
Verbal and nonverbal ways. Excellent. So, like Mia just said, speaking is one of the ways that we communicate with each other. Is that verbal or nonverbal?
That's verbal.
That's verbal. Speaking is one of the main ways that we communicate with each other. We're doing it right now, right? We're speaking to each other.
And
right?
nonverbal could be like sign language.
Nonverbal could be sign language. Excellent. When my son was, well, he's now 9, almost 10, as I said. Birthday's coming up, just a couple days. It's almost 10. When he was young, and he used to sit in a high chair, and I would give him baby food. He couldn't speak, but he was cute. He was adorable, right? But I wanted to teach him, how can he ask for more? So I taught him this, because I believe this is silent language, how you say more. So I taught him this. So he would eat his food, and if he still wanted more, even though he couldn't verbally say anything to me, he would go like this, right? And that means more. What are some other nonverbal ways that we communicate with each other besides silent language? Can you give me one nonverbal way?
Maybe like texting.
Texting is one. Give me another one, Landon. I'm gonna give you a clue. My son's learning it right now with his Chromebook in school. What's another nonverbal way? You want to help him?
Emails?
Emails, yep. Emails, texting, email, silent language. Those are nonverbal ways that we communicate. And obviously some verbal ways we communicate, speaking, talking on the telephone. Also another nonverbal way is probably old school. You guys probably have never done it, but years and years ago, probably with like your grandparents or maybe your great grandparents, they used to write letters. Like you don't do that anymore.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say letters.
You don't write
the
letters.
computer.
Yeah, they used to write letters. So now we have these electronic mail that we call email. But they used to actually sit down and write a letter to someone, and then have to put it in an envelope and seal it up, and then put it in the mailbox. That's kind of like ancient now, right? No one does that anymore. But when we think about effective communication, communication also affects the goal that we're trying to reach. It really does. When you think about auditioning for Dorothy, for the Wizard of Oz, do you have to speak?
Yes.
You do. You have to, not only do you have to speak, you have to know your lines. You have to speak up and articulate. That means speak in such a way that's clear so that the audience can understand what you're saying. Communication is essential in being able to get that role of Dorothy, correct?
Yes.
Yes. You spoke about once before, and I said, what are some things that you could do in one of the previous lessons to become a higher achiever in math? And you said one of the things I could do was ask the teacher to stay after school to give me extra help. You said that, correct?
Yes.
Right. That means that you have to communicate. You have to communicate your desire with that teacher to help you, correct?
Yes,
If
to
you
get
just
better at math.
Absolutely. If you stay quiet, will she know that you want extra help?
No.
No, she won't know. So it's important to make sure that we communicate well. Now, also, when we think about communication, we need to think about how do we communicate with our friends? How do we communicate with our peers? Because that makes a difference. Remember, in the last lesson we talked about, I gave you a quote, Maya Angelou. She said, people may not remember what you say, but how you make them feel. So sometimes the way we communicate and the things we say can make someone feel happy, sad, angry, or scared. And this goes back to our character traits. Our character traits play a role into how we communicate with others. One of the character traits is self-discipline. How can self-discipline play a role into how you communicate with your friends?
By respecting yourself and your friends and
So respect. Talk a little bit about respect, because the 4 character traits for this lesson, one of them is respect. So we have respect, we have caring, we have responsibility, and we have honesty. So speak about respect. How does respect, when you think about the word respect, how does that play a role into how you treat your brother, a classmate, a peer, a neighbor, your parents? How does that play a role?
so it could play a role by, as you said, the quote, you may not remember what someone said, but you can remember how they made you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Saying something nice or doing something nice for a friend or maybe one of your siblings could really brighten their day.
Absolutely, that's really good, excellent. And what about you, Mia? How do you think one of those character traits, whether it's responsibility or caring or honesty, plays a role into how you communicate with some of your friends or even your parents?
Well, caring, it plays a big role because if I care about them and like they feel it, they'll like show even more that they care about me.
Absolutely.
So like treat others how you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
And if I show, even if I do care about them, but I don't show it that much, maybe they'll, of course, they'll still care about me, but maybe they won't care as like, but maybe they won't show that they care.
Excellent, excellent. Those are 2 great responses. And while I'm here, I want to thank the 2 of you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, because I've had you 2 in class. I had you 2 in class before we've gone through these unfortunate times. And the 2 of you always showed me respect. You showed me respect in how you didn't speak out loud or how you didn't talk out of turn, how you raised your hand, how you interacted. That showed respect to me. It showed that you cared about me. And it showed that you're responsible, even at a young age. And that's part of communication, because you can communicate verbally and non-verbally. So even as a teacher coming into the classroom, amongst your peers, even when someone else may not be paying attention or calling out, I knew that Mia wasn't going to do that because you're responsible. I knew that Landon, if you wanted to say something, you were going to raise your hand. That's responsible. And it shows that you really, truly care about me. And I really appreciate that. So thank you for that. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for that. All right. Now, also, when we think about communication, there's 3 communication styles. That means there's typically 3 ways that people, personality-wise, communicate with others. That's aggressive, assertive, or passive. Now, when I say the word aggressive and you think about someone communicating with you in an aggressive manner, what comes to mind?
Maybe when you didn't even know that you did something wrong, they come to you and just start yelling at you and screaming at you.
Right, just out of nowhere, just the manner in which they're approaching you is in a very aggressive manner. Maybe they're loud and intense, right? And that can make someone be fearful, you know, like, whoa, why are you so loud? Why are you so intense? What's going on? What happened? Like you said, I didn't even know I did anything to offend you or to upset you. Right? Now, that same situation and scenario where maybe you did unintentionally, you know, offend someone, how would a passive person, you think, Landon, respond with that same situation? The same situation, Mia has offended someone or did something that bothered someone, right? An aggressive person is going to be loud and intense. How do you think someone that's passive pretty much being the opposite of aggressive, right? How do you think that person may respond to her?
I think they won't really say anything. I think they'll be like shy, kind of maybe like, it's okay. Like if they're yelling at them instead of sticking up for themselves and saying like, why are you doing this?
Absolutely. So they may come and approach you in a more softer way,
Yeah.
right? A more respectful manner. They may even be a little bit timid, even though maybe you bothered them or said something and you didn't even intend to do it. They still may be a little hesitant to say anything to you about it because they're afraid themselves, right? But what about an assertive person? We talked about aggressive, we talked about passive, but what about an assertive person? How would an assertive person then approach you, Mia, in a situation like that where you, again, unintentionally did something that bothered someone? An assertive person, they're not going to be aggressive. They're not going to be loud or intense. At the same time, they're not going to be like soft and timid. They're not going to be afraid necessarily. They're going to assert themselves. What does that mean, Mia?
They're going to say it firmly or confidently, and they're going to look you in the eye when they say it. They're not going to be afraid. They're not going to be shy. They're going to say it firmly but not scream, almost like at the same tone that we're speaking now, but more firmly or more confidently of themselves that they can speak to you. And they're going to look you in the eye and like give you almost send confidence.
Right, it's going to make you feel good, right? Knowing that even though maybe you did do something that bothered them, they still approached you in a way that's respectful, right? Like you said, like you have to respect others. If you want respect, you have to give respect, right? And as a police officer, that's one of the things that I think I tried to always do, especially when I was in the patrol division. I always try to treat people with a level of dignity and respect. No matter what they did, people commit crimes, people do things wrong, people make bad decisions, they do. They're not perfect, we're not perfect, I'm not perfect. But just because someone makes a mistake, Mia, you make a mistake, Landon, you make a mistake, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be treated with the utmost respect. Right? We all deserve to be treated with respect, and that goes into how we communicate, even as a police officer. There's times where I have to communicate verbal and nonverbal. And sometimes people don't even care about what they did wrong if they feel like you're disrespecting them. So you have to remember that it's important to respect others in the way that you communicate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that make sense, Landon?
Yes.
And I can tell you from personal experience, just dealing with your parents, dealing with your father's education, like I've had conversations with your father and he's made me feel good by the way that he shows a level of care and respect. Just even giving me the opportunity to meet with him, to talk with him. Same thing with your father in education. You know, it's the same thing with your mom. Like just being able to interact with your parents in the way that they treat me, and it's mutual. Lets me know based on their communication, verbal and nonverbal, how they feel about me. And that's important because people will remember how you make them feel. People remember how you make them feel. So think about that. Think about that as you continue to get older, as you go through school, as you go throughout life. Think about the way that you communicate. Effective communication will ultimately help you achieve your goal, right? Effective communication will help you make decisions, right? Because when you go and you're interviewing for a job or something like that as you get older, people are going to be paying attention to your body language. How do you sit? What do you say? Your facial expression, your demeanor, your attitude, all these things play a role into achieving your goal. When you're auditioning for Dorothy, they're going to watch and look. She's smiling when she says this line, or was Dorothy frowning? When you go to the teacher and you ask for help, how do you ask her? Do you go to her demanding respect? You know, Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, I want you to stay after tomorrow, help me after class. No. You go to the teacher and you say, can you please stay after class and help me with my math work, right? You're communicating, and communication is very important to achieving our goal. You want to add anything to that?
No.
No? What about you, Landon?
No.
No? Well, listen, thank you so much. Lesson number 4 is complete. I look forward to lesson number 5 with you guys. I really appreciate this time. See you next time.